This is Mike from fearshop.com. Make sure you like this video and leave your comments. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell to set up notifications so you know when the next video drops. Let's get into it. Let's talk about my top 10 horror comedy movies. There are a ton of great movies to choose from in the subgenre of horror, so this top 10 list was very hard to put together. Horror and comedy seem to go together like peanut butter and jelly. If you think about early on-screen comedy, a lot of comedy comes from watching someone suffer in amusing ways. Think about physical comedy and slapstick comedy, where one gets to laugh at another's physical pain. Satire makes comedy out of shredding its subjects, as do public roasts. If you look at film, the relationship is even tighter. The timing and tension is key to how well a joke works, as well as how a jump scare works. Both operate on pinpoint execution, on mounting tension and precision timing on its way to a big payoff. In comedy, that payoff's a laugh. In horror, it's a resulting screaming, wincing, or jumping. In a great comedy horror movie, you get the best of both worlds. You're able to make the scare scarier and the humor funnier. Now let's take a look at our 5 honorable mentions. I truly wanted to do 10 honorable mentions because I could not stomach to keep some of the films off this list, but rules are rules. Bubba Hotep from 2002. An elderly Elvis Presley and a possibly still alive John F. Kennedy team up to take down a soul-stealing Egyptian mummy. Just your routine horror movie plot. I'm not sure that many studios were ready to finance this movie. I know that not many audiences were initially lining up to see it either. But when you cast horror comedy veteran Bruce Campbell to play the aging king of rock and roll and veteran actor Ossie Davis to play the disembodied JFK, teaming up to take down a soul-sucking mummy, you know that you might have struck horror comedy gold. The leads try to explain the reasons why their friends are dying to the staff and to other patients, but to no avail. After one too many aged friends get their souls stolen by this Bubba Hotep, named so by Elvis, Elvis and JFK formulate a plan to take down this ancient terror and release the souls of their friends. Next up is Reanimator from 1985. Based on H.P. Lovecraft's Herbert West Reanimator, director Stuart Gordon's mad scientist dark comedy is an absolutely wild ride from start to finish, led by an eclectic lead performance by Jeffrey Combs as the dead-obsessed doctor himself. This one is for fans of Frankenstein and Evil Dead all at once. By the time it builds body by body to its zany climax, you'll have a pretty good idea why Reanimator originally received an X rating. Night of the Creeps from 1986. Thrill me. I'm not sure there are two better words spoken by grizzled detective Ray Cameron, played perfectly by Tom Atkins, to sum up the whole vibe of Night of the Creeps. A year before he hit it big with Monster Squad, writer-director Fred Decker unleashed this truly insane genre mashup on a world that was not ready for it yet. Extraterrestrial experiments, slugs that take over your brain, corpses rising from the dead. Night of the Creeps smashes together all of the best parts of your typical zombie apocalypse, alien invasion, and 1950s creature features, all into one glorious bloody package. Night of the Creeps is a cult classic. There are a lot of haters to this film, but there are many more people who adore this one. Next up is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon from 2006. Behind the Mask takes a mockumentary approach to a burgeoning slasher killer a la Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. From physical training to psychological prep, the documentary crew, led by intrepid reporter Taylor Gentry, played by Angela Goethals, follows every step of Leslie Vernon's quest to become a horror legend until the night of his massacre arrives and the film transitions from found footage to a legitimately thrilling slasher where everyone is fair game. Nathan Bassel is equal parts magnetic and unnerving as the title killer, igniting a crackling commentary with his co-stars that gives the film's bloody final act an extra kick, featuring cameos from genre greats like Zelda Rubinstein, Robert Englund, and Scott Wilson. American Psycho from 2000. Mary Harron's 2000 horror satire is one of those special adaptations that focus and enhance on the original material. Built around an instant classic performance from pre-Batman Christian Bale, American Psycho is as hilarious as it is deeply disturbing. The film is a hyper-violent, pornographic portrait of the soulless, hedonistic impulses of wealth that defined the worst of the 1980s. Surrounded by an ensemble of VIPs including Reese Witherspoon, William Dafoe, Chloe Sevigny, and Justin Theroux, Bale gives what would be the performance of his career in my eyes. Now on to the top 10 horror comedy movies. Number 10, An American Werewolf in London from 1981. John Landis is known for his 70s and 80s comedies like Animal House, The Blues Brothers, Trading Places, and Coming to America. All great films. My favorite film of his is An American Werewolf in London, a genre-bending classic. The story follows two young American men, David, played by David Naughton, and Jack, played by Griffin Dunne, backpacking their way through England when they're attacked by a werewolf, killing Jack and wounding and cursing David. That's your basic werewolf curse mythology, but Landis takes it a step further. Each of the creature's victims will exist in a state of reanimation until the bloodline is extinguished. The undead Jack acts like sort of a conscience and sounding board for David. But what makes this particular movie such an awesome, gruesome werewolf film is the Oscar-winning effects work of the legendary Rick Baker and his team. They still hold up today and are still some of the greatest effects ever put on film. Number 9, Army of Darkness from 1992. Horror icon Sam Raimi brings us the amazing Evil Dead trilogy, with the final installment being Army of Darkness. I did not think that anyone would have expected Army of Darkness after seeing the original Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell returns as Ash, the long-suffering deadite hunter who spent 2 films trapped in a cabin in the woods with the undead, and by now, he's fully settled into the hamminess and physicality of the role, with the added bonus of an enhanced ego that makes Ash's buffoonery all the more hilarious. Easily one of the most quotable horror films ever made, with fountains of blood and even more of the franchise's signature stop-motion spookiness. Army of Darkness is an iconic benchmark of horror comedy that's arguably only bested by its own predecessors in people's eyes. Number 8, Cemetery Man from 1994. Directed by Dario Argento's protege Michele Soavi, Cemetery Man, aka Della Morte Dell'Amore, is a wild head trip of a movie that treats the living dead as more of a nuisance than a deadly threat. Based on the comic series Dylan Dog, Cemetery Man stars Rupert Everett as Francesco Della Morte, a misanthropic gravedigger who prefers the company of the dead to the living. There's just one catch. The dead won't stay buried in his graveyard. When he meets a stunning widow by Anna Falchi, and I mean stunning, at her husband's funeral, Della Morte falls head over heels, courts her in the morbid halls of his ossuary, and before you know it, they're stripped naked and steaming it up on top of the dead husband's grave. That's just where things start to get weird. Number 7, Dead Alive from 1992. Before he transported audience to Middle-earth, Peter Jackson made some of the weirdest, most wondrous horror genre films out there, and none more grotesque or hilarious than his 1992 slapstick splatter film, Dead Alive, aka Brain Dead. Timothy Baum stars as Lionel, a young man kept under the heavy thumb of his oppressive mother, Elizabeth Moody, until he falls in love. But just when he thinks he's free, Mother's vengeance comes calling in the form of a blood-soaked zombie outbreak that puts Lionel's sudden hunger for independence to the ultimate test. With flourishes of stop motion, an ungodly amount of on-screen blood, and one of the all-time best cringeworthy gags in the iconic soup scene, Dead Alive is one of the craziest and most unhinged horror comedies of its time, culminating the lawnmower vs. zombie horde set pieces that ensures it would become a cult classic. Number 6, Dead Snow Red vs. Dead from 2014. The first Dead Snow is a brilliant blend of camp and gross-out horror, but the sequel is above and beyond in almost every respect. There's more humor, there's more outrageous gore, more zombie genre mythology, and just so many more priceless moments that you'll want to run and tell your friends about. Dead Snow 2 picks up right where the first film left off. Martin, played by Veigar Noel, is the only survivor of the Nazi zombie massacre. He's just chopped off his arm, and Herzog, Origin Gamst, and his men are still after him. After crashing his getaway car amidst the panic, Martin blacks out. When he comes to, he's actually in a hospital and he's got two arms again. The only problem is that new arm isn't his. The Nazi zombie commander's severed arm was found in Martin's car, so the doctors assumed it was his. And the zombie squad into the mix for additional comedy and an all-out fight with communist zombies, and this movie is gold. Number 5, The Frighteners from 1996. To be honest, anything that Michael J. Fox touches is definitely gold. Add Jeffrey Combs to the mix and throw in Peter Jackson to direct the film, and you know you have something special. The story was originally conceived as an episode of Tales from the Crypt, but makes an incredible full-length experience. Using his familiarity with a threesome of third-rate ghouls to haunt houses, Frank Bannister, played by Fox, is running a spook extermination scam, clearing up the mess after the ghouls have scared everyone witless. However, a series of unexplained deaths draws the law's attention to Bannister. The film is truly a roller coaster ride with amazing roles and just a ton of fun. Number 4, Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is an interesting film that is just as much of a remake as it is a sequel. Rather than picking up where the original movie left off, Evil Dead 2 goes back to the beginning. But there's only Ash and Linda this time. Quickly into the movie, Linda becomes a zombie and the movie's off. The original Evil Dead is much more of a horror film, and Evil Dead 2 is much more of a comedy film. There's satire in both, but the sequel has far more. There's plenty of comedy and plenty of gore. The makeup is much better in the sequel, given that there's actually a budget. Of course, we then were presented with Army of Darkness. After that, Sam Raimi was better known for films like Spider-Man. Number 3, Dead Snow from 2009. With so many zombie movies over the years, eventually you're going to run out of ways to freshen up the subgenre. Enter Tommy Wirkola's decidedly skewed take on zombies in this horror comedy with plenty of guts. Sure, zombies are great movie monsters, but if you have Nazi zombies, will you just double down on the level of villainy and pun-worthiness? This splatterfest puts a Nordic spin on a traditional zombie by adding in elements of the Dragar, an undead creature from Scandinavian folklore that fiercely protects its treasured hoard. In the case of Dead Snow, these Dragar happen to be former SS soldiers who terrorized a Norwegian town and looted their belongings, only to be done in or chased into the freezing mountains by the villagers themselves. Dead Snow gets originality points for this for sure. It's also a very funny, gory, and satisfyingly violent movie with elements of Evil Dead and teen sex slasher flicks scattered throughout. And if you like it, there's more where this came from in the sequel, Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead. Number 2, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil from 2010. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is pure joy. I was shocked at how good this film is. The film turns the tables on other backwoods-type horror movies, turning the would-be killers into the good guys. Tucker and Dale just want to fix up their cabin. The longtime brothers, played to perfection by Alan Tudyk and Tyler Labine, are looking for a quiet retreat when a group of stuck-up teens wander into their property and immediately assume the worst about these backwoods hicks. Despite doing everything they can to be friendly and helpful, Tucker and Dale can't stop innocently scaring these kids to literal death, and the result is a bloody, boisterous, and sometimes quite touching horror comedy about friendship and learning to look past stereotypes. Number 1 is Shaun of the Dead from 2004. Edgar Wright and frequent collaborator Simon Pegg may have never had a better collaboration than Shaun of the Dead. Everything about the film just works. Zombie movies that focus on the zombies rarely succeed. The films that work are the ones that create a movie about characters that just happen to be in a world filled with zombies, and Shaun of the Dead is no different. This joke-a-minute comedy is one of the freshest entries into the zombie genre ever, and is a must-watch film for fans of horror or comedy. So that wraps this one up. I want to hear from you. Post your thoughts on this top 10 list and let me know the films that you would put on your list. That's it for this episode. Make sure you like this video, make sure you share this video, make sure you subscribe, but most of all, make sure you keep it horror.